What's up, internet? My name's Ori. Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday, July 19th, day number 4, technically, inside the Big Brother house. We just saw the 2-night premiere of BB26 over the past 2 nights. Last night was the start of the live feeds as well. We've got a lot to go over. If you are new here, though, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You never miss a video. You never miss a stream. This is going to be your place where you can get daily updates on everything going on throughout the Big Brother 26 season. First thing every morning right here on this channel, so you're not going to miss out. Before we jump into the live feeds, just want to talk about the episodes that we saw. Just a kind of little bit of my thoughts, nothing too in-depth. We all saw it. Night 1 was pretty much the same thing as night 2. They just kind of ran it back. We did have different competitions, which was nice, but overall, I think it was a good premiere. I'd much rather have had a 2-hour premiere over one night. Would have been a lot more condensed and easier to digest than these 2 nights of waiting. Plus, we would have had at least night 1-ish feeds, right? Maybe technically night 2-ish feeds if it did take longer to actually film and record everything. But overall, I think it was a good, decent premiere. It could have been a lot worse than it was. I did like a few things that they did. For example, with the whole AI Ainsley twist, right? I like the idea that the players had to make a decision that had pros and cons to it. I didn't like that it felt that it punished smart players, or at least players who are there to play the game. And while, yes, I think there is a little bit of, an argument for people like Leia and Quinn, who I think both voted yes because they knew there was something up, right? That they were thinking of it in a very meta way, as opposed to like, no, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. They knew there was a catch, and I think all of us kind of knew there was a catch going into it. But I don't like the idea because it sets the wrong example for players. If you have somebody who doesn't know Big Brother at all, and then you showed them this, they would go, oh, yeah, well, I guess, it really is okay to vote, for things that aren't necessarily good for my game because you might get rewarded for it. And I feel like that doesn't, I don't know, that's kind of a Lawan level type thing where you nominate yourself for the block because you think there's going to be a special power after you get evicted. It's not as egregious, but it feels dirty. It doesn't feel right for somebody who's in there for the game to vote yes to add another opponent for you in the game, even if you get an idea that there is something up. I don't know. There's just something about it that doesn't feel right to me. So overall, I liked it, but there were things that I wish wouldn't have happened. I like also that there's stakes to it, right? That the upgrades and downgrades were all part of it. It wasn't just kind of meaningless that they were making a choice. There was weight behind that decision. So I did like that as well. I also liked some of the comps that they did. We did have 2 different comps for each night, which I like that they didn't just rerun the comps again. That would have been super boring. But I did also kind of have an issue that the second night's no competition was a lot harder than night 1's. Using your face to slide that puck on the glass definitely was harder. Nobody really was able to complete it. It was all based on like who got 2 in by a certain amount of time, compared to night 1's, which I thought was actually a very easy competition where you just had to kind of stick your head into a box that had nasty stuff in it like snakes and bugs, but there was glass in front of you, right? It's not going to touch you or anything, so it really wasn't that hard. You just had to unscramble the words, run and go do it. A couple other takeaways from it. Tucker really would have lost that first night no competition. He would have gotten the downgrade if Chelsea did not forget to plug it in. It was heartbreaking seeing Chelsea run over to the button before she plugged in that plug right into the wall to allow her to finish the competition. She had to run back and figure out why isn't it working. So it would be kind of different if he was the one with the downgrade and not Chelsea. Quinn and Mackenzie ended up getting the upgrades. Cedric and Chelsea got the downgrades. Let's start with what the downgrades are, since we know exactly what they entail. You can't play for HOH. You can't play for veto. You can't vote at the next eviction, but you can be nominated. It's kind of a nuke. It really is just completely ruining your game. But once we get to the live feed sections, we'll talk about maybe how it actually worked out a little bit. But definitely downgrades as far as those are. They live up to their name. Upgrades, we don't know who gets which, but we do know what they are. The first one is called Deepfake HOH. The other is called America's Veto. Again, we don't 100% know what those are. Just kind of thoughts that were popping around in my head when I originally heard Deepfake HOH. Would you be able to take over someone's HOH potentially in a weird way, almost like an invisible HOH, but you're blaming them anyway? I thought it would be kind of cool if when they go up to do the nominations, they turn the key, thinking, for example, maybe they thought Joseph and Mackenzie were going to be up on the wall. But instead, it ended up being Cam and Tucker, and they were up on the wall, and the HOH would be like, wait, that's not what I did. But they're the nominations, and everyone's like, why are you lying about the nominations you did? I thought that would be kind of interesting, but I don't know if that's how it's going to work. That's just a complete random guess. There is also some talk, and once we get into the live feeds here in a second, that it could be involved with the nominations this week. The veto, again, America's Veto, don't know how that kind of works, but something similar I thought of is maybe the idea is it's America's Veto, right? Where it seems like America voted to use the veto to save a person from the block. In reality, it's one of the players, so they get to kind of hide behind that move. Sometimes there are situations where you would want to use the power of veto to save somebody, but it's just not good for your game. You would kind of expose yourself if you did it. This would be kind of an interesting little thing if you could do almost this invisible veto play and blame it on America. That would be kind of cool. Again, no idea what it's actually going to be. These are just kind of my guesses as we head on in. It'll be interesting to see how those play out. We're going to find out more information on what they are, who gets them on Sunday, but it will be either Mackenzie or Quinn. I've marked that on our chart here. We even have Ainsley on our chart as well, with the green arrows for the upgrades, red arrows pointing down for the downgrades, so we can keep track of those throughout as well. What else do we need to talk about from the episodes? I think that's really kind of it that covers the premiere. And then we can jump into live feed stuff. And in fact, I've got multiple things to go over. We not only know who the HOH is, we know who potential nominees are, we know who potential targets are. There's a lot going in here. So if you don't want the feed spoilers, now's your chance to look away. But in 3, 2, 1, your HOH is Angela. Angela has won the first head of household. As far as nominees go, there could potentially be up to 4 of them. It might only be 3. We know that Angela will be nominating 3 of them. The 4th one might be coming from that deep fake HOH twist here. Not 100% sure how this is all going to work. But that is what we're hearing so far. And there will be at least 2 chances to save yourself from the block. The first will be for what's called the BBAI Arena. That will be what I imagine is kind of like a battle of the block scenario where the nominees all face off against each other in a competition. Winner comes off the block. Whether, again, that's 2 people, 1 person, not 100% sure at the end. After that, we'll have the veto as normal with a replacement nominee and all that stuff. Whether or not the deep fake stuff comes in that, and they'll be naming replacement nominees. Again, not 100% sure. But that's what we're looking at. At the very least, 3 nominees, potentially even 4 nominees. We'll get more information as the feeds go on, and I'm sure we'll find out everything on Sunday. but nominations will take place today on the feeds. As they were all going to bed, they were kind of anticipating seeing the nominations happen in the morning. Some other big things happened. We started hot on the feeds. Very first thing we learned is Mackenzie, also going by MJ. If you're watching the feed, you ever hear somebody referred to as MJ, they're talking about Mackenzie. That seems kind of like her little nickname going around in there. She starts off these feeds and she's already talking about how Angela is running the other side of the house. She says this to Chelsea that, hey, current HOH needs to go. They're not a comp threat. They're a social threat. What are you doing? How on week one, technically night one of the feeds, but like day 4, nominations haven't haven't happened yet, and you're calling out the current HOH? What are you doing? Wild, absolutely wild. Now, she does have the upgrade thing. Maybe that's making her feel a little bit more comfortable. She's able to do what she wants to do. I don't know, but it's a very interesting play to be going this strong on the current HOH when nominations and veto have not taken place yet. So definitely something to watch out for, because I think this is definitely going to get back to Angela, whether it gets back to her before nominations, whether there's some other things at play that stop her from going that direction. I think that Angela is really going to be considering changing things up, because after this, we also ended up learning, one other thing. She was kind of spiraling with it as well, even to the point where she's like, I think Leia might be with Angela on her side. We got to pull her back. But later in the feeds, she talks to her a lot. It seems like they're actually very close. So I'm not sure exactly why she thinks she would be with Angela on Angela's side and she would have to pull her back. Again, there's a lot we need to digest. I even have something else that's going to help us a little bit later that I hope you guys are going to enjoy, a little battle map type of thing. No alliance chart yet, but a little bit of a battle map. After this conversation, the next big one that we had that we saw in the feeds was Joseph and Cedric having a little chat. Joseph was telling Cedric, he's like, yeah, I think the noms are going to be people that like everyone kind of agrees on isn't really fitting in. He names Chemo and Lisa as being in trouble for first nominations. He also says that he thinks he feels like Kenny thinks he's in trouble, but he's not sure if he actually is. And he says, like, you're close to him. What do you think? And Cedric, who says, he's like, yeah, I'm close to Kenny. We talk, but like he never really engages in the groups. He has a hard time because of the age gap, so he's not really fitting in and feeling comfortable. Joe mentioned that he likes Matt, but he says, I get the concerns that you guys have with him. And Cedric mentions that he thinks that Matt's mouth and his honesty would end up getting him in trouble and being an issue later on. He also talks about how him and MJ, Mackenzie, are very close. So Matt and MJ being very close, and then that can be kind of an issue. And Joe talks about how he likes Angela, and Cedric kind of agrees. And this was actually a thing where it was kind of funny because they were talking about how like they like everybody in the rock room, and Cedric talks about how he didn't talk to Brooklyn and that they wanted to solidify a group for tonight. But one thing, and this is again why it's really a shame that we don't have Rewind. I saw it on Twitter a lot where people were like, oh, Cedric wants to do an 11-person alliance. Hold on. Yes, they were talking about all the people they like and potentially creating a group. But the specific thing that he said was, we can't do an 11-person alliance. I like a lot of people in here, but that's not the game I'm here to play. I'm here to win. So yeah, we could bring people in, but if you do an 11-person alliance, what does that leave left? You only have 4 people, and then in a couple of weeks, you're nominating people that you're aligned with, so it doesn't even work. So it's kind of funny where people just heard this 11-person alliance thing, and because we don't have Rewind and easy access to it, they just kind of ran with Cedric wants to do an 11-person alliance, when really he was saying against that he doesn't want to do that. But it was all a lot of talk because, again, they talked about how tonight would be the night to actually solidify a group while Angela still has power. They can kind of get together. Again, a lot of talk about forming groups, and we'll go over what these groups are in just a bit. But never really got them all actually together in a room saying this is the group. The closest we came is to another one in just a bit. One kind of just funny thing I noticed is that Tucker calls Kenny and Angela mommy and daddy already. So like that's already a thing where like Kenny and Angela are seen as mom and dad inside the house. We then ended up getting Angela and Joe, and this was interesting, especially coming right after the Cedric conversation, where Angela and Joe seemed very close, like they've already built quite a relationship. And she mentions how she sees Joe as her eyes and ears. She's like, I saw you having a conversation and I didn't even worry about it, right? I was like, you're in there. That's great. I just walked away because I knew I could come talk to you later and find out what happened about it. So they seem like they have a really tight bond, the two of them. They talk about a potential group that they want to do, which would include Cam, Angela, Joe, Chelsea, Leia, Quinn, and Cedric, and Ruby. Whew, a lot of people in the group, but definitely what they would kind of like to see as their solidified group. Later, Brooklyn kind of gets into this. They do talk though in this conversation no to about TK. That's what a lot of people are calling Takor. Instead of Takor, they're calling her just TK. That's kind of her little nickname that's been floating around, I think. But this is where we got our real like confirmation from the HOH of what she's thinking about. She says Kenny is the target, Chemo and Lisa potential pawns. This is kind of the consensus of the house when she talked to everybody. This is what they were pushing, was especially Kenny and Lisa, because they're not really fitting in with everybody. She also says to Joseph, like, you're the only one that I've told those three to, right? You're the only one who knows all three. He mentioned, though, he's like, I've heard all three from different people. But she's like, yeah, again, like, you're the only one who knows all three that I've actually confirmed those with. She may have said the names to other people, but it was just kind of an interesting way where, like, he kind of called her out, where she was like, you're the only one who knows about it. And he's like, okay, cool, but I've heard it, right? Like, I've heard each of those names already. Like, he was calling her out, but not calling her out. It was actually kind of smooth. I'll say there's two people who so far, just because we did get a decent amount of them having conversations, that really kind of impressed me with their work and their ability so far. And that's Joseph and Quinn. Both of them seem like they're in really good spots in the game, but we'll break more of that down in just a second as well. After that, we had Matt. Basically, there's a lot that goes on down in the storage room, and Matt spent most of the time in the storage room. He was in there so long. It was like a revolving door of other characters, but Matt stayed in there. So first off, we started with a conversation with Quinn and Matt. They kind of talk about maybe doing kind of a 4-person thing. Quinn really likes Joe, and MJ and Cam as well. They kind of mentioned that like maybe that could be maybe a little bit of like a 5 type of thing, but those are potential options for a 4. Both of them do really seem to like Joe. Tucker offered Matt a final 2. He tells him, he's like, it was called the Big Dogs. He also mentions how Leia offered Matt and MJ a final 3 the night before the feed starts, which was a thing. Matt then tells him that, hey, we should do a thing where, we got to get Chelsea or no, excuse me, not Chelsea. He tells them that we got to get Cedric out, and Cedric is a big problem. He actually tells this to Chelsea, MJ, and Quinn. He was going wild. Eventually, he actually says, hey, it's Matt, Quinn, MJ, Chelsea, and Leia who are all in the storage room, and they say, we're going to do a 6-person alliance, including Joseph, who's not even in the room. Joseph was included in this group without even being in the room. Joseph, it might be in one of the best spots in the entire game. He's on both sides of the house. They both want him in the groups. He doesn't even know. He's getting invited to alliances he doesn't even know are being made. So he's in a really good spot. But, like I mentioned, this was all taking place in the storage room. It was happening over a long period of time. Eventually, at one point, like everybody left except Matt and Lisa came in, and they had a kind of a long conversation where he felt like he was pulling her in. Then eventually, you had MJ coming on back in there, and they were in there for literally the feeds were on for probably 3 hours, and 2.5 hours were all footage of Matt in the storage room. It was kind of wild. But like I said, Angela noticed. And Angela, while she was up in the HOH room, she noticed how long he was in there, and she started getting a little bit paranoid slash kind of on the right track. Like I mentioned, MJ and Matt were actually both talking about how Angela is a threat, and they weren't really shy with this to a lot of different people. And she said, "Man, Tucker, Matt, and MJ, they're gonna push for a strong group, all the strong people, and how this isn't good." So like, she's aware of this happening. So we 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 might have had the feeds for 2 hours. We were already getting a potential flip of the target here. These people are messy. They're so messy. And if this is night 4, I can only imagine what we missed. Leia did talk about how I think the first couple of days were very kumbaya, and then she's like, "It's everybody's going crazy now." I'm really excited about how things are going, and we're gonna have a lot more to discuss and go over. We'll have all the feeds today. Tomorrow we'll have another update for everything, and it's going to be, I'm sure, packed full of even more. One more thing I want to go over before we do call it here is I want to show you guys this. This is what I call the battle map. It is not an alliance chart yet, but I want to kind of help you understand a little bit of what's going on in my brain as I'm trying to sort through where people stand in the house. So let's take a look at this. Here's what we got so far. And I'll try and explain this the best that I can and maybe give you guys an idea of what's going on in my brain. Probably the easiest thing to start off with are the 3 at the bottom here: Kenny, Chemo, and Lisa. It definitely feels like those 3 are the ones in kind of the worst positions in the house. Everybody kind of agrees that like they're on the outs. They're not really fitting in with everybody. T-Core and Tucker are just a little bit above them. It feels like nobody's really talking about them as like threats, but they're not really in with like the bigger groups that are kind of forming. So I have them kind of above those lower guys, but also not really with everybody else. On the 2 sides, you got Angela and you've got Mackenzie and Matt on the other. These are very, very hard sides where neither of them are seeming to want to work with each other and wanting to go after each other. Eventually, it's just about whether or not Angela wants to do that now, or she's going to take the easier route and go with kind of what the house wants, which I'm kind of hoping she doesn't. I want to see some fireworks here. After that, we've got the guys who are kind of in that top half there. You've got people like Rubina, Cedric, and Brooklyn. Really in the middle, I'm not sure where they stand 100% either. If I had to go with my gut, I think they all lean towards Angela's side. But there's been multiple groups being made that include people like Rubina or Brooklyn. Cedric's not really getting included on the Matt and MJ side, so he's probably more onto the Angela side as well. Plus, he was kind of expressing those doubts to Joseph. Up that top row, these seem like the 5 who might be in the best positions in the house right now. Quinn and Leia seem like they're more on the MJ Matt side of things. I haven't seen as much of them with the Angela side, but definitely in a place where they're kind of in the middle. They're being included in lots of different things. They're both in both of those groups that are kind of being thrown around as the potential sides. Same thing goes with Chelsea. Same thing goes with Cam. Everybody seems to trust them. Joseph, he feels like he's actually the number 1 man for both Angela and for Matt. So he's really found himself in a great position where he can just kind of choose. It also could potentially, and we saw a little bit of this with Angela and Joseph having a conversation a little bit later where she was expressing some of these concerns where she noticed Matt was in the storage room for so long. And it did seem like Joseph was pushing her off that a little bit, right? So it doesn't seem like that is the path she's going to go with as of right now. If I had to say what the nominees would be this second, it would be Kenny, Chemo, and Lisa. But that could all change by the time the nomination ceremony comes around. Who knows what kind of information will get spread, especially with how crazy things were with Mackenzie and Matt throwing around the Angela's name like that before nominations. So I'm really excited to see how this all turns out. What do you guys think of the 2-night premiere? What did you think of the live feeds last night? What do you think of these dynamics that are going on inside the house? I want to know all of those answers in the comments down below. Also, if you have ideas on what you think the deep fake HOH will be, what the America's veto will be, let me know those in the comments down below as well. Thank you guys again so much for watching. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button. Like I said, this is the place you're going to want to be all summer long for daily live feed updates. First thing every morning, giving you everything you need to know about what's going on in the live feeds. Again, very important this year with no active archive. We can't pause, we can't rewind on the feed, so it does make it a little bit more difficult to cover, but I'm going to be here for you every single morning. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, smash that like button. It really helps the YouTube robots, the YouTube's Ainsley. It lets them know that, hey, you like this content, you think it's pretty good. And check out any of my other videos on the channel anytime you watch stuff like that. If you want to check out the live streams for the premiere, I don't think night one's up. They kind of hit me with a copyright thing on that, but I'm fighting it. I'm fighting the man this year on those. I believe it was fair use and I didn't break any rules. I believe night 2 is still up. You can check those out. So much more content will be coming. Check out all the links in the description, pin comment down below for things like the Discord, my Twitter, great ways to keep track of everything going on. Join the conversation over on the Discord. Lots of great Big Brother fans all chatting about everything going on in the live feeds there as well. Check out the Kick and Twitch. I'm going to try and stream tonight. Pretty much any night there's not an episode, I'm going to try and stream over on Kick and Twitch. We'll see how that goes. I know I promised that before last year too. Make sure you follow all those things down below. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you next time.